The Power of a System was the book that I wrote. And what came back to me was other attorneys read it and say, hey, I love that book. Let's get to know each other more. It builds relationships.
Let's first get some quick introductions here from John Fisher. So John, introduce yourself for those who don't know who you are as people are signing in right now.
Oh, hey, I'm a medical malpractice plaintiff's attorney in upstate New York, where I practice in the Hudson Valley of New York, which is a gorgeous part of the state. And I love what I do. But what I did not enjoy doing when I first started out was the business of law. And so I immersed myself in the business of law, learned everything I could from amazing people like Jay Ruane, and just soaked in their knowledge. And then I'm still a raw, unfinished product, but we've come a long way.
I'd like you to start with kind of the, they call it the E-myth, right? The entrepreneurial myth, where it's like something has to happen for someone to kind of let go of the reins and realize, things can't just be done on a, on a random basis. If you want your business to be, running efficiently, but also you want to have freedom in your life, you need to start building systems. So what was that learning journey for you where you kind of put your foot down? You're like, you know what? I'm going to build a systems driven firm rather than a people dependent firm.
Extremely difficult, extremely, very hard, challenging. Running a law firm is about 100 times harder than I ever envisioned that it would be. So really, when I got fired from a firm that I'd been with my whole career back in June of 2010, I realized that while I was the guy in the weeds doing the work and going to court, and I loved doing that, I had no idea how to run a business. And so I'm basically out on the street and trying to figure out what to do, Bill. And so what I did was I did the only thing I could think of. I started writing every single policy that was in my mind because I realized it was not of any value to anyone else unless I documented the way that we do business. When we talk about core processes, that's what we're talking about. The way that you do business in a very granular level. I put all the information, and for about 2 years, I just kept writing a book that's now The Power of a System. And so at that time, I went to some of my partners and I had mentioned, I'm writing a book about law firm marketing and management. And they laughed hysterically at me. They said, that is the dumbest idea that I've ever heard. Why on earth would you give away everything that you know to other people? And my response was, well, I was kind of embarrassed, really. But my response was, because no one else is doing it. I don't know anyone else sharing that type of knowledge. And when you give without any expectation of getting anything in return, amazingly and perhaps counterintuitively, everything comes back tenfold. And so that's what I did, Bill, was The Power of a System was the book that I wrote. And what came back to me was other attorneys read it and say, hey, I love that book. Let's get to know each other more. It builds relationships. Strangers will come up to me. Bill, I was in the airport in Atlanta waiting for a rental car at a rental car place. And I saw this young couple and from a distance, and they're looking at me strange. I'm like, this is kind of weird. And they're a young African-American couple. The woman sheepishly kind of walks up to me and she says, my husband said that if I didn't do this, I'd regret it the rest of my life. I'm like, well, who do you think I am? She goes, well, you're John Fisher, the author of A Power of a System. And I'm like, well, yeah. And she gave me a hug. Her husband came over. And it was such a cool thing because I had no idea who these people are. And yet they viewed me at some level as being someone they just wanted to connect with. And that is the power of a book. But most importantly, Bill, I wrote this book for myself so I could document all the core processes. And then through meeting an amazing person named Jay Ruane, I got turned on to what's now known as Fisherpedia, which is the online website of every core process that our law firm has. And the beauty of Jay's system for his law firm too, is not just that we as lawyers write the core processes, because there's things that I don't know how to do in my law firm. And during the pandemic, I didn't know how to send a fax. I didn't know how to do anything really. And so, but when you document the core processes, things can run smoothly. So if everyone's gone, then you know how to electronically file a lawsuit in federal court in the Northern District of New York. All the little nuances you have, because you don't just have text, you have screenshots, you have video, everything is laid out for you super simple. So what Jay did, and I took him because everything he says I do basically. He said, get somebody who's real, like a high school kid who's into documenting stuff. So my college age son is great with technology. He started writing up these policies. He's got, arrows, circles. He's got everything. It is super simple and easy to follow. And so he just basically follows us around and says, okay, how do you open the office? How do you do this? And he documents everything. Where do we keep diagnostic imaging studies? What happens when we have a paper copy of a medical record rather than electronic? What do we do with it? And it's like, okay, everything goes in there. And so what it has done, Bill, is it made it so simple when we go from a firm, like if everyone just cleared out of here one day and we had to start from scratch, all of our systems would be documented. And in his book, Traction, Gino Wickman says the most neglected aspect of running a business, and he has 6 key components in his book, Traction, is the businesses fail to document their core processes. That is the secret ingredient to running a business. And no one knows that better than Jay Ruane. And so I just basically do what he says, and it has worked out great because Jay's friend, Ryan, and my friend too, once said to me that he has an open door policy at his firm. Anyone can come to him at any time. But the first question he's going to ask them is, do we have a policy for that? Because if we don't, then he's going to send the team member back to their office, write up the policy, bring it back to us, and as a team, we'll discuss it, how to do it and how we can improve it. That's brilliant. So rather than being less accessible to our team, I've decided to become more accessible to our team, more accessible to our clients. I know this is counterintuitive and people say this is crazy. I give my cell phone to clients. They don't abuse it. I mean, people are reasonable with me, and it's all good because what it does is it builds that relationship. And so what we do with the team members, and Bill, the beauty of this is the team is building out your systems. They know how your law firm functions better than you do. They can document everything in your version of Fisherpedia. And it's wonderful. We just had a policy in my law firm about our firm's culture. It was long overdue. We needed to basically document what are the key virtues of our firm. And one of our team members, a paralegal, just wrote it all out. I could share it with you right now. And she explained everything. She wrote it better than I could. So what a cool thing is that I gave her a $50 gift certificate. And I said, if you want to write 20 policies, I'll give you a $1,000 gift certificate, because I'm so grateful that you're helping to build our law firm a little bit better, one brick at a time.
Next question I have for you, John, is how do you create the systems? And I say this from the perspective of understanding that you get team involvement. So it shouldn't be you creating all the systems, but the actual process of creating and fleshing out a system, what's like the step-by-step there?
Well, it's very organic because people are going to come to you and say, hey, Bill, how do we do this? Jay, how do we do this? And it's like, well, if we don't have a policy for it already, then you will create it. And that policy is 3 simple steps: what this is, why we do it this way, and how we do this. So the format and structure is always the same. We put it up there because we want people to explain, this is why we never agree to confidential settlements, because they're abhorrent. They're horrible for our society. But otherwise, if we didn't spell that out, they wouldn't know. So I'm very big into visuals. And the beauty of Fisherpedia, Bill, is that we can put video, we can put screenshots, we can do anything that you want: arrows, circles, annotations, you name it. Super simple, easy to do. If you've just got a short 2-minute video clip, you just add it right into the body of the policy. It's really cool. And so, because some people don't want to read text, they actually want to see. They're visual learners. And so you can include, but to answer your question, throughout the course of a day, someone is going to come, a team member, and ask you, how do we do this? Where do we park? And so what you want to do is an onboarding policy for every new employee. And Jay gave this to me. I mean, here's the steps. When someone resigns or is terminated, here's the termination letter. Got that from Jay too. When you make an offer of employment to someone, here's the offer letter. Got that from Jay too. All of this stuff I just borrow, because why should I recreate the wheel when he's already mastered it? And so we just keep building one policy on top of the next. But Bill, the really cool thing about this is that when we want to put an ad on Indeed or somewhere like that, it's very simple. We've already got it in Fisherpedia. Copy, paste, and move. It's the process is simple. The documentation of the process is simple. And it could be as mundane as how do you turn on and off the coffee machine? How do you replace the water cooler? It could be anything. But the reality is don't think this has to be big ticket issues. It could be as simple as how do you open the office? How do you create a policy in Ruwainpedia? Things of that nature.
A question I have for you, the number one problem, we've surveyed our audience many times, is delegation, giving things up. That's the number one problem, is not knowing when to give things up, what to give up, and what is delegatable. So when you look back to all these systems you've created, John, a question I have for you is like, what's something that at one point that's a little higher level, that's like higher up there in terms of a higher pay grade activity that you thought you could never give up? And then you build a system around it, and now you've clearly and consistently delegated that task.
Well, I'll give you an example. I abhor the daily grind. I do not like all the administrative stuff and everything that goes into it. So what we've done is we've taken all the stuff that I hate, and this is what I'd recommend. Write the top 5 things that you absolutely hate doing right now. Write that list. Next to it, write the list of the top 5 things that you love to do. And then what you want to do is document your time and figure out how much time am I doing the things that I am passionate about. Jay Ruwain, passionate about running a business, but maybe not, I think, Jay, you are also passionate about cross-examination on DWI cases. So, but maybe not anymore. I'm not sure. But the reality is I love to be in a courtroom. So I'm not going to give that up. And I enjoy depositions. I enjoy client interaction, but I hate the grind. I hate all the paperwork. And so what we do is take all the stuff that you hate in this column and delegate it to the best team you can have. So in my small community in upstate New York, in the Hudson Valley, we don't have a ton of legal talent here. So we hire virtual paralegals in the state of New York who do a phenomenal job, and they crank out paperwork, and all I have to do is sign and look. So to answer your question, there is almost nothing that I can't delegate, but there's certain things that I could delegate. I just don't want to, which is being in a courtroom, doing depositions, and meeting with clients because I love the practice of law.
So another question I have for you, John, is getting buy-in. And I know you're very adamant about the fact that there's certain people that are okay with being in a systems-driven firm, and there's other people that aren't okay with being in a systems-driven firm. And that's okay. My question though is when processes aren't getting followed, maybe it's because someone is too busy, or maybe because they're overloaded with work, or it's something other than their accountability. How do you have those tough conversations with people? Or perhaps someone on your team, like a director of operations, has those conversations to kind of redirect someone to the process?
You do it with compassion. And I think you do it knowing that when people are not following your policies, there's usually a pretty good reason. And there might be something going on with their life, or maybe their spouse is sick, or they have a death in their family or something. You do it with compassion, and you show them that you care. And what I would do, rather than saying, this is horrible what you did, I can't believe this, rather than doing that, just calm down and just go to them and say, I saw that you're not getting the work out lately. What's going on? Is there anything that I can do to help you? What's going on with your life? Basically show them that they matter to you. So rather than taking the heavy-handed approach, take the more compassionate, understanding approach that you care about them as a person. But Bill, there's some people who just are not into systems, and they're like, I'm just going to do it my way and I don't care. They are not a good fit for a systems-driven law firm, and you gently and compassionately show them the door. And so, that's all I can say. For example, one thing, Jay, that we've adopted in our law firm is a daily recap. So each team member will recap hour by hour what they do during the course of their day. It's a wonderful thing. I get to see at the end of the day what everyone is doing, and if there's any obstacles or problems that they're facing, so we can deal with it in real time. But I've had some people say, I'm just not into that. I had a new secretary is like, I'm not going to give you the daily recap. Gently show them the door. I mean, that's what you have to do. And, the reality, Bill, is there's going to be certain policies that are not followed. And that's the reason why you would adopt a training day. And that's one day, it's actually 20 minutes where you focus on a discrete single policy. Are we doing this? How can it be improved? And get the collaboration and brainstorming of the team to focus on a single policy and how it can be improved.